Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ad Project Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Schellerud from Ad Advance, and today I am joined by Mr. Matt Wickland. Matt, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. It's a beautiful day. Happy to be here podcasting with you, Joe.
How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Except when I found out that in your dream, I tried to murder you.
You're going to bring that up.
Yep. So apparently in Matt's dream, I hired an assassin.
Yes. Yeah. I can't believe we're talking about this right now. This is something in private, but yeah, I get like night terrors occasionally. It's a byproduct of melatonin. Joe hired a secret assassin to take me out. It didn't work. I was very distraught about it, and I woke up crying. That's my embarrassing dream story that I just shared with Joe before hopping on air. So.
And of course, I felt the need to bring it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
I apologize. Well, as we transition to Amazon, we've got Prime Day coming up. So Prime Day is July 11th and 12th.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're in that lead-in period right now. It's a couple weeks out.
Yeah.
Exciting times.
Exciting times, yeah. So this is always a fun time with Prime Day. You know, they schedule it during kind of the lulls of summer. And so usually June, July, August, you know, unless you've got a summer seasonal product, is usually going to be a lot slower in terms of sales. So that's one of the key reasons for Prime Day is to kind of ramp up overall traffic and retail sales during this really slow period. And so when we previously recorded the podcast with Josh, we didn't have the exact days for Prime Day, though we were pretty certain they were going to be July 11th and 12th, as they are. And so in the previous episode, we kind of talked through the tent pulling strategy, where it's a ramp up ahead of time, and then you've got your peak during the event, and then kind of how you take advantage after. What we wanted to talk through is, you know, a couple things that we've seen previously for these big event days. So like one is how deals really impact overall Prime Day performance. And then another one is our general perspective on how we prepare our advertising going into these events. There's different strategies that we can kind of rehash with the tentpole strategy, with the tentpole approach that we have. But there's also other things that we can take into account, like what's typical conversion rates and traffic, and like based off of the situation, how we kind of approach that. So that's going to be the key point to this podcast, is kind of talking through those items. So I guess, where do you want to start? Deal side, advertising side? Like, where do you feel like is a good spot to start?
Let's start out a little bit more general. Just like what we typically see in terms of metrics leading up to Prime Day. Sure. So you hinted at this a little bit. During this time of year, things tend to slow down on Amazon. People are out of their homes a lot more, taking more vacations, and just spending less time in front of a computer or their devices, which leads to slower shopping trends, lower traffic, lower sales, most typically.
Sure. And
conversion rates often impacted by that. But as we get closer to Prime Day, traffic may step up a little bit. We typically see a ramp up, especially as we get like 1 week out from major events. But conversion rate may not increase. It may decrease, actually, because people know there's a major event coming up. They know that there's typically major promotions during Prime Day. And so they're starting to do some window shopping, clicking through, looking at products that they're interested in. We often see add to cart rates increase during this period, but conversion rate decline, which is not the typical correlation for those metrics. People are adding stuff to their carts just to like create
kind
a
of
shopping
using them
list.
as a wish list.
Yeah, Amazon has add to list, but not a lot of people use it compared to add to cart. So during this period, you may see advertising results and overall business results slow down a little bit, and maybe unit session percent or conversion rates decline a little bit as window shopping increases. But a lot of this research during this kind of window shopping phase leads to conversion on Prime Day, especially if you're running a deal.
Yep. And so, yeah, for this initial period, what I would expect coming into it, if you're looking, say, like strictly at ROAS or ACOS or even like total advertised sales, they're probably going to drop. And it's usually about the week before Prime Day is where we really start to see it. Kind of compounding that, we've got 4th of July. 4th of July in the US is a holiday. And so we tend to see like traffic go way down on 4th of July itself. And that's like straight up the week before. So then you've got this week between 4th of July and Prime Day. And typically what we'll see is, if it's more like a commodity type product or something, like sales aren't impacted as much. But if it's a little bit more of like a bigger ticket item or a one-time purchase, that's where we can see advertising sales get hit more, because a lot of people are really doing some research in anticipation for Prime Day. They don't want to make that big purchase 4 days before, this day where you could potentially get a discount on the exact same product. So when approaching it, we typically see, like Matt said, conversion rates drop. Add to carts can go up. Traffic itself, I'm trying to remember, I think it stays pretty flat throughout that period.
Yeah.
But there's less purchases because people are just kind of waiting until Prime Day to then make those final purchases, hoping for a deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then Prime Day itself, what we typically see is traffic usually is about 2x increase, maybe even more on the first day. So traffic spikes a decent amount. But at the same time, conversion rate itself, if you look at an average, stays pretty flat compared to the normal conversion rate overall.
Yeah. Last Black Friday, last Prime Day, we have an average 1% conversion rate increase. So basically nothing, 10% to 10.1%.
Sure. And so it's highly deal and product dependent, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But on average, if you aren't doing anything major for Prime Day, a key thing with your advertising is I would not go crazy on bids unless you have specific strategies kind of tying to that. Where we've seen a lot of people get burned is going into Prime Day, assuming that, all right, this is the day that everybody's going to be buying. Yes, it's true, sales go up quite a bit, but there's still a lot of browsing that happens. And so where we've seen people get burned is really getting aggressive on Prime Day bids, and then seeing ROAS really go down, or ACOS really go up, because conversion rate, the percentage of people who purchase after clicking, stayed pretty constant overall. And so that's one key thing, like traffic goes way up, and it's really the traffic that drives the sales. The conversion rate in general stays pretty flat throughout. So if you're looking at like general approach to your advertising in terms of like bid strategy, I would probably keep things pretty constant to what your average is, but then just get ready for budget to really increase, because now you're going to see a huge amount of traffic that spikes during the Prime Day event.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So how about post Prime Day? What do we typically see there?
Sure. So again, this is kind of variable based on deal, no deal. Like oftentimes brands that run a major promo see higher traffic in the wake of that promo. And that's often because of the organic ranking benefits of all of those conversions that they had during the event. If they sell more, they have higher sales velocity than competitors. They often improve in organic ranking, and that results in a lift in sessions and click-throughs post Prime Day.
Sure.
But there's often like a holiday hangover, basically, where in the wake of the event, there's a little bit of a downturn in traffic and results. This is super variable by category too, but in general, you can maybe expect traffic to restore to pre-Prime Day levels, or potentially take a little hit as people got a lot of their shopping done on the days of the event.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So this one's definitely more variable. But Prime Day can kind of suck up all those purchases within a 2-day window, and kind of before and after, you may not see as many sales, just because Prime Day just drove so much of that traffic to a very short period of time. So there's a couple different scenarios. Like, all right, say you're running a major deal. You increase sales velocity, and that can definitely help. At the same time, trying to drive sales. Say if you were selling a $500 product and you discount it for $300 for the 2 days, and now it goes back up to $500. Now those sales are definitely going to take a drop, because a lot of people were able to purchase before, and now that $500 price doesn't look as attractive. Where we see some success after Prime Day is, say if you didn't run any major deals, but you saw a huge huge spike in traffic. Now we can use different tactics like retargeting for people who are familiar with your product, but maybe didn't pull the trigger on Prime Day to now come back and purchase. And so that's kind of the backside of our 10 pull strategy. It's how do we take advantage of that key spike that we had in traffic during the event and help that lead into other sales following the event. It tends to be easier when you didn't have a big price promotion during Prime Day, because then if people see the higher price after, the likelihood that they're going to buy, if they didn't buy when it was discounted, is going to be pretty low. But if pricing is pretty flat throughout, then there's a good case to be made to kind of take advantage of that traffic after by using other tactics like retargeting, or if you have a consumable and you drove that first purchase, now further down the road, now it's trying to drive those incremental purchases as you go.
Yeah. A great strategy to pair with retargeting advertising tactics too is a coupon in the wake of the event too.
Sure.
So, maybe a 2-week kind of cooling off period, 10 days, something like that, then running a coupon for a few days at minimum and pairing that with retargeting, which shows the coupon in the ad. You can retarget your own products for people using DSP. You can do exclusion audiences for those that haven't purchased but viewed it over the Prime Day window. You can also exclude competitor purchases. You can also target competitor views, not competitor purchases. So all of those folks that looked at products on Prime Day that are relevant to yours, substitutes or your own product, but if they didn't pull the trigger because they were waiting, I don't know, for the perfect deal, or maybe you didn't run a promo, like that can also be a good time to leech some conversions from your competitors,
Sure.
competitor interest, just to push them over the edge. Since they're exposed to a lot of products that were promoted that had discounts during Prime Day, it can kind of build this price sensitivity over the, short term, basically. So if you offer a little sweetener, a small coupon to push them over the edge again, like I wanted this, missed the Prime Day window, that can also really help conversion rates.
Yeah, for sure. So Matt, you've kind of done analysis digging into all right, if you run deals versus if you don't run deals and how that impacts Prime Day performance. So maybe you want to walk through that and kind of some key takeaways that you've had there.
Yeah. So every year for every event, we always do a deal or no deal analysis where for every single one of our clients, we record the deal that they had, the extent of the deal, whether it covers their hero products or the majority of their catalog. So the summary of this analysis is basically a deal for hero products or, a sizable deal, not just one niche product that doesn't do a lot of volume. And then no deal, which would be no promotions or very small, a limited subset of the catalog. Doesn't make up the majority of traffic that they receive in their accounts. So pretty much universally, like we talked about earlier, traffic increases substantially. So measured by impressions, more than a 2x increase across the board on Prime Day. Click-through rates are highly variable, though. So if you run a deal, you're going to see significantly higher click-through rates.
Sure.
People that engage with your product visit a product detail page versus if you don't run deals. So just getting people to your product page, promos are, since they're so visible, incredibly important. Once you get somebody to your product page, this is where deals make a massive difference in conversion rates. So if you run a deal, if you ran a deal on average, there's a 30% increase in conversion rate. If you did not run a deal, it was a 13% decline in conversion rates. Roughly 70% that ran a deal saw conversion rate favorability, and 80% of those that didn't run a deal did not see conversion rate favorability. So massive disparity between the two.
Sure.
So what that all boils down to is if you ran a deal, you have roughly 90% odds of orders increasing over the 3-week window before Prime Day as a rough benchmark. It's highly, highly likely that you will see increase in orders. The average increase, 156%. So very, very substantial. If you didn't run a deal, 51% chance your orders don't increase over the comparison period. So about 50-50. Maybe you'll see a lift, maybe you won't. The average increase was 6% for those that didn't run a deal. So 156% increase in orders for a deal, 6% increase in orders for those that didn't run a deal.
Sure. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. In terms of ACOS too, pretty substantial. So 50% of those brands that ran a deal, roughly 50%, saw an improvement in ACOS. So kind of a coin flip, whether ACOS will improve or ACOS won't improve.
Sure.
Deals offset the price point that you get per order. So CPCs are often higher, quite a bit higher on event days.
Yeah.
But that conversion rate helps offset a lot of it. So the average is a little bit of a tricky metric because it can be biased towards really heavy volume or outliers, 22% average ACOS decrease if you ran a deal.
Okay.
Across the, 50%, across all, I guess, is the blended average, but whether you saw an increase.
So if you ran a deal, ACOS dropped not by 22% absolute, but 22% of the percent.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Only 9% saw ACOS favorability that didn't run a deal. So 91% saw unfavorable ACOS if they did not run a promotion on Prime Day.
Sure. Interesting. Yeah. So I guess the key thing then just really falls to is if you run a deal, you're obviously giving up margin there.
Yep.
And so now, along with advertising, trying to figure out where that break even is or what that profit margin looks like. It's good that conversion rate definitely increases when you're running a deal. And we're seeing ACOS favorability too, which kind of takes away some of the hit from that advertising margin that you have throughout Prime Day. So that's definitely good for those who don't have a deal. So what this tells me is that people who are shopping for Prime Day or like other days like Black Friday, it's really driven and focused on the deals. While people may still see an uplift in traffic, conversion rate can actually go down for those who aren't running a deal because people will click through, see that it's not a significant deal, and then just move on because it's that sole focus of finding those discounted products as you go.
Yeah. Basically, if you do not run a deal on Prime Day, you have 90% odds, roughly based on past data, of having a higher ACOS and most likely flat sales.
Sure.
So it's going to be a rougher day. Having a deal drastically changes performance. It's like deals are the biggest lever on these major events by far. So they're very important. If you're not running a deal, I would plan on being a bit more conservative with your advertising. If competitors are, they're likely going to soak up the majority of traffic and the majority of conversions.
So what would be what's the approach for those who aren't running deals? Like how do we approach general like bid strategy or setup ahead of time for Prime Day?
Sure. I would look at past results. So these are all aggregate averages and counts of success, raw counts and stuff like that. For those that had favorability and didn't have favorability, there are those that still see good results with no deals. They're just in the minority. So it depends on category competition and what your competitors do. Some categories, there isn't as much discounting. There's no margin to discount. So just, look at past results. First and foremost to guide your strategy,
sure.
Knowing your category and the intimate knowledge you have about your products and your audiences. But in general, if it was my brand, I'd be more conservative with my ads during Prime Day, knowing that in all likelihood, I'm going to have worse conversion rates and deals being the biggest lever. If I'm not running one, I'd probably prefer to invest when there's a more level playing field.
Sure.
When my competitors aren't running promos and beating me in price significantly.
Yeah. And so I think that you make a really good point is that it is super product and brand specific and category specific. So if you're in categories that already have a low margin, like the the availability to do deep discounts is probably not going to be there. Or if you're in much more of a higher ticket item, then you still have that margin available to do that and give the discounts. And so, I mean, we have had the whole spectrum. As we approach Prime Day, we look at, all right, product, business strategy, category, overall, what's our key goals? And we have spectrums from like going all out for Prime Day and advertising way ahead of time to trying to drive up traffic, to really going significantly during the event and then pulling out all the stops after to make sure that we've utilized that full traffic. Those are usually on higher margin products where we're able to do that. On the flip side, there are products where we have actually stopped advertising on Prime Day. We say, hey, let's just take advantage of the traffic trends. Let's not use our margin during Prime Day for this advertising. And then let's start running it around the events. And that has worked well too. In that instance, it's a much lower margin, more commodity type product that, you know, you're not going to be seeking out for a deal on Prime Day itself. And so I think one of the key things is that as you're looking at your products, it's really analyzing like, one, are you running a deal or are you not? And if you're not, all right, is my category, do I expect competitors to be running a deep discount? And is my product one of those like one-time purchase items, or is it more of a commodity item that's just more of a need that I search for when I need it? And this can really drive your strategy going into Prime Day too. And so it's taking all those pieces into account. You know, overall, we're seeing a boost in traffic, and that tends to help everyone overall, but to the no deals, much less significantly than those who are running deals. And so, yeah, we're giving averages now. But when we're approaching this, it's looking at like at very like product category, business strategy specific levels overall and how we approach this with advertising strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another piece too, like I don't mean to harp on deals and their importance during Prime Days so much, but they are the biggest lever for performance during major events like this. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not running a deal, it's too late, you know, but use this knowledge for Black Friday and future events because it's very similar to Prime Day.
Sure.
And we'll do another podcast episode on Black Friday specifically, but another benefit of running a deal, we touched on this a bit earlier, is the organic ranking lift that comes with that in the wake of Prime Day. So some brands will run deals, some won't. Those that do see significantly higher order velocity over that period, what that does is it boosts organic ranking. And so coming out of Prime Day, those that run deals typically rank better. Those that don't run deals rank a little bit worse if your category has deals and you don't, or if, you're running deals and your competitors don't.
Sure.
So, organic rank, obviously incredibly important. We've covered that a lot on this podcast too. But there are like after effects and benefits or, you know, potential, challenges if you don't run a deal in terms of ranking.
Yep. The one nuance I would put in there, and probably a big nuance, is as you're approaching these days, like deals can really help. But at the end of the day, you've got to look at your profit margin too. Yeah. And so it's all based off of that available margin that you have. And for some folks who are running deals, they're not going to be profitable on the sales that they generate over Prime Day. But it's kind of a longer term play to build up the sales velocity, help with organic ranking, and drive more reviews, which drives more social proof. So it's a much more like long term play too. So you can take that into account. At the end of the day, we don't want to drive anybody to run deals if it's not going to be profitable and they're not going to see the results in the long term.
Yeah.
So, you know, it all comes back down to one, what's my overall business strategy? What's my time horizon? What's my profit margin? Based off of that, what availability do I have to run a deal? And for many people, it's like, okay, I don't have the margin to do that. That's okay too. Just note going into Prime Day that you're not going to see those boosts that those people who are running deals will see.
Yeah. If you choose to not run a deal, you may be more like bottom line profitable
for sure
than those that do run a deal. So that's
it's
why we run businesses.
It's easy to get mesmerized by the sales itself, but that profit margin has a huge impact on that bottom line for sure.
And the ranking benefits are unknown. You don't know whether ranking, your position will improve, your rank will improve, and you don't know for how long. So it could be a gamble, but going off past results, you don't know until you run one, basically. I guess you can calculate it out. You can do front end diligence, but yeah, your mileage may vary.
Yep. Yeah. And so for anybody who's following us on social, we'll do another post following Prime Day too, kind of going through the deal, no deal analysis, what we saw, approaches going into it. So good ways to connect with us, usually on LinkedIn, Twitter. We tend to post to Reddit every once in a while. This would be a good one to post to Reddit too. So if you want to follow along, make sure you follow us. LinkedIn's probably the easiest spot to make sure you're getting all of our content, or you can hop over to our website, fill out the contact form, and we'll stay in touch with any new updates we've got. So Matt, looking forward to another Prime Day with you. It'll be fun.
Yeah, likewise, Joe.
Yeah. And for all those who are listening, we appreciate you listening to the Ad Project Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.